words speak much louder than all my fears. Sometimes I just wanna disappear, running until I can feel you near. I need a new purpose, I'm looking for so much more. Don't leave me here searching, you're just what I'm longing for. When times are getting crazy and everything seems hazy, is there some place for safety I could go? Run away, run away, run away into your escape. Run away, run away, run away, you're never too far to run. Run away, run away, run away into your escape. Run away, run away, run away. Run away, run away, run away.
If you're not watching us live on YouTube, you're missing a lot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a night dreamer. Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the strange news. Bigfoot, abominable snowman, skunk ape. They are just a few of many mysteries. I'm Guy Ticker. The strange news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. Broadcasting to you live in his underwear. Sorry. From the studios of Night Dreams Talk Radio, you're listening to Gary Anderson. He's the bomb.
The size of nuclear bombs today has evolved from the 1960s so that they are smaller but more accurate.
Hey, are we talking about weapons or Gary?
Even if the total megatonnage was actually less, the explosive force would be spread out more efficiently across the metropolitan area. So in that case, the actual destruction would be even greater than what I'm about to describe now.
Yeah, we're talking about Gary. On the radio, on the internet, and in worldwide syndication. Get ready for the ride of your life.
The destruction that I'm about to describe is likely an underestimation of what would actually happen. It still gives an adequate sort of approximation of the effects. So here we go.
Here's Gary.
And here I am. And believe me, I got my t-shirt on. I have nothing else on. I'm totally naked. And I'm afraid to do the show tonight, JC.
What? I closed my eyes. I didn't want to be shell-shocked, but I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
The internet here is acting crazy. I just got all my stuff shut down, but came back on. It's weird.
Well, join the crowd here too. I mean, it's acting up. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's from Uranus. The atmospheric planes of the ionic sphere is being charged negatively.
Or maybe you should have dressed tonight.
I didn't have time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was at the nudist camp all day playing the saxophone.
You were out sunbathing.
No, I was out blowing, actually. But it's just one of those days.
Yeah. Hey, remember that story about 2 years ago about the new thing that was coming around, how you sunbathe? Yeah, I don't know how you detail it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I know how Trump sunbathes. It's in a can. He sprays it. But no, what are you talking about?
It was that new fad where you're supposed to be naked and you sunbathe your backside, I guess. Supposed to energize you or something. It's weird.
Well, that would look kind of strange at the nudist camp, wouldn't it?
It would. I could just see you in the downward dog position.
I can see you down on your back, so you better quit.
You get tied in a knot, can't get out of it.
Yeah, well, I've been in a lot of knots, I tell you that. 5 marriages. Anyway, a lot of things going on in the news. How about the sub, with all those, a billionaires on the sub and a lot of millionaires, because it costs a lot of money to go down and see the Titanic. And, they're still looking for it, but, there's a whole, maybe they got enough air. But the owner who manufactured that sub said the air ran out like yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you're basically in an average sized bathroom, a little concealed area. Not only that, but what is it, like a mile down below? I mean, that's a lot of water above you. If you don't suffocate, you're going to get squashed. So it's scary.
And on top of it, they would be frozen too.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And here's the other thing: it's pitch dark down there.
Oh yeah, and you never know. People are brave, I mean, here's the thing: we can't even be safe to go to the bottom of the deepest parts of the ocean, right? It's not safe, and yet we're talking about going to Mars, going to the moon, and create a moon base when we still have what with the submarine. It's horrible what has happened. But again, technology. I tell you, look what happened with our guests' audio. Look what happened with your internet, my internet falling up here tonight. I mean, could you imagine you're on the way to Mars and something malfunctions?
Right, because this all got to be precise. And then calculate this. In 1969, they did it with a computer size of your house that had way less technology than your smartphone. Figure that one.
Oh, yeah. Now, that video from Las Vegas, Las Vegas does a lot of videos that are just not real. Have you noticed that? We had the guy, it was sitting there, every time he'd go out, he would capture UFOs. Now they're helicopters. We proved that. And now this video, it came out, it's still surfacing again. And it's already been debunked. It was just not real about that alien. It's like 10 foot tall.
Yeah. Well, remember, Las Vegas is the entertainment capital city of the United States. It's not the world. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. Even your friend there, Art, used to say some things about it, I believe.
Yeah, that's all entertainment. But, again, Las Vegas is a nice place where you can get gas in somebody's backyard. Remember that one?
Yeah, in the backyard. Yeah, didn't he give some kind of or something blew up there or something?
No, we were talking about how dangerous it was.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I can't even remember now where he was getting the gas, but he was selling the gas at a heck of a discount. He managed to find a gas pump, and he was pumping people, and he had a long lineup of people, wanting gas.
Yeah, listen, he was full serve. You get the whole deal. Just drive around the backyard, drive around one side, go out the other.
I'll tell you what, like I told you then, if somebody lit a cigar anywhere near that guy's house, or had a barbecue, let's say the neighbors would have had a barbecue while that was going on.
Yeah.
The whole neighborhood would have had a blowjob better than any prostitute could ever done.
Oh boy, yeah, that would blow a couple of them ranches away for sure.
I'd blow the whole block away.
Yeah, oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, because when they came to his house, he had them in 100-gallon and 50-gallon drums of gas. And he was siphoning them out of for the pump, pumping it in. Crazy.
That was bizarre. Yeah, that's like, I don't even know what to compare that with, but I never heard tell such thing, but only Vegas, right?
Yeah. And in Montana, a couple came home. Their TV was on. Again, what is it with bears and beer? All over their front room, there was cans and bottles of beer. And on the couch was a passed out bear. True story. True story. It happened last week.
I believe, listen, this is a pattern. There's a pattern going on here. And the bear was probably watching the old cartoon Yogi the Bear. On top of that, drinking that beer with the bear on it.
Yeah. Can you imagine how, do they have AA meetings for bears?
BB meetings for beer bears.
How about BBAs?
They need something. This is a trend, Gary. This isn't just started. We've been reporting this stuff for going on 4 years. Bears break into houses, drink the beer or the parks or your garage. And, and then there was the one where the lady come downstairs and there's a bear sitting on her couch. I mean, how do you wake up?
How about the one, remember the couple came home, they went out for dinner, out to a movie. They came home and the wife heard some noise coming out of the bedroom. So they thought somebody broke in. And when they opened the bedroom door, here was a bear passed out on their bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you imagine if the guy, got in bed with his wife and the bear was in there? He'd be like, geez, honey.
I thought you shaved.
Yeah, you didn't shave tonight, honey. What's going on?
Yeah, you got longer hair than I have.
Right. Yeah, she's biting his ear off,
Oh, yeah. Let's take a little quick break and run this thing for Paul Watson Foundation. Again, you can help him. He's, again, out with his new ship trying to stop the killing of whales, and then the blue dolphins, I think, is coming up next. So, again, you can go to our website. It's a link to it. Anything would help. I mean, we already discovered his ship gets worse gas mileage than any car you could ever have. We'll be right back with our guests. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Captain Paul Watson was a co-founder of the Greenpeace Foundation in 1972 and the founder of Sea Shepherd in 1977. In 2022, he was forced out of Sea Shepherd in a hostile takeover. So, he established the Captain Paul Watson Foundation to carry on the work they've been doing for half a century with the specific strategy of aggressive nonviolence, which means aggressive intervention without killing or injuring anyone. They took the name he created and the logos he designed, but they couldn't take away his life's mission. The foundation will carry on. This summer, with their new ship, the John Paul DeJoria, they intend to intervene against the Icelandic slaughter of endangered fin whales. And in 2024, they plan to be in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary to stop the return of Japanese whalers who will be defying the International Court of Justice. They have one ship, but they need 2 more. Please visit paulwatsonfoundation.org to become a monthly donor. By becoming a monthly donor, you can help grow their Navy and help save our oceans. We don't survive on this planet with dead oceans. If the oceans die, we die. Please visit now, www.paulwatsonfoundation.org.
And I want to thank Dodge City Soda. They sent me a sample of a dozen bottles of Dodge City hand-brewed root beer, JC. And I'll tell you what, it is the best root beer I've ever had.
Well, listen, hopefully in your case, these bears don't want to, convert to root beer.
I doubt it. It doesn't have the kick. Well, who's our guest tonight? What are we going to be talking about?
Hey, I got to tell you something. Our guest tonight is James Shupsky. Now, he is the chief operating officer at Margie's Outdoor Store, which is located, Gary, not in your state, the Columbia River Gorge. Now, they have collected, Gary, well over 150 plus reports from UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, and all things strange.
Well, James, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Well, I mean, you originally were in the military. And you were stationed, in Washington?
Yeah, I was stationed up at Fort Lewis. and that's about maybe 200 miles north of the gorge. I came out here when I was 19 years old, and of course my buddies and I, on our leave, we'd come down and adventure in the gorge. And in between that, here then and now, I was a wildland forest firefighter and a mountain guide, and also a search and rescue EMT.
Wow. So you've had a lot of experience.
Yes, adventuring is a big part of my life.
Well, again, a lot of people don't realize, the Columbia River flows out to the Pacific, and that is where they've had so many shipwrecks, especially at the turn of the century. A lot of ships would come in, and they come in at the wrong time, and they would, just crash and sink. And it's not very safe as it is, even now.
Yeah, you're right. The Columbia River is the second largest river in America, and it is the largest river that in North and South America that flows into the Pacific Ocean. And that area where it flows into the Pacific that you're talking about is called the Graveyard of the Pacific. And in the 1930s, there was a huge rash of sea monster sightings. They called the creature Colossal Clawed, and numerous descriptions, some of them vary, but they report a creature was up to 50 feet long.
Well, you never know. There's things in the ocean that, they keep discovering, I just saw a fish the other day that has a better set of teeth than I do. But, again, in the area where you're at, it's really rich, isn't it? In the pioneers originally, the trail going to Oregon was not that far from you, was it?
Yeah. So the Oregon Trail terminated in the Dells, Oregon, and that's about 20 minutes east of my store on the Oregon side of the river. And just a little background, my store is in Bingen, Washington, and my wife and I came down about 2 years ago. My mother-in-law, she had a number of businesses in the town of Bingen, and she passed away, and so someone had to come down to run the family businesses. And one of them was a store that wasn't quite doing very well, and with all my outdoor experience, we decided to convert it into an outdoor gear store. Well, it wasn't long before we had folks coming in and telling us strange stories about their encounters with Bigfoot or UFOs or even stranger things than that. And so I found this stuff really fascinating. And so we put up a big sign in the window that said, "File your paranormal reports here." And I told all my employees that when people come in, take them seriously. Treat them like adults. Ask them intelligent follow-up questions. And that strategy of being a safe place to tell your story, no matter how strange it is, has really earned us a reputation as the best place to come and talk about things. Well, it turns out that the gorge is way over indexes for paranormal activity. There's a lot of theories about why that is, but it's certainly borne out by, like you said in the intro, we've had more than 150 reports in the last year and a half.
Wow. And what is the most strangest one that you can think of off your head?
Well, we get reports of glowing orbs. We get lots of reports of Sasquatch stories. In fact, everybody has either seen it or has a neighbor who's seen it here in the gorge. UFO stories, some ghost stories. Stories about little people, people fully normally formed humans that aren't more than 2 or 3 feet tall. But the one that's really captivated my attention is a creature we call the Klickitat Ape Cat. And we have now received close to 60 reports of an enormous Black Panther-like creature. It seems to be very muscular, black fur, which is, according to the wildlife biologists, of course we have cougars out here, and cougars are not supposed to be black. They're either tan or red, but black is not something recognized by science. People also say, about half of those reports, say the creature is enormous. It stands 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder.
That's tall.
And that's bigger than a tiger. And there's only one creature in the fossil record that matches that. And it's a creature that used to live during the Ice Age called the Panthera atrox, or the American lion. And it's a creature that lived here in Washington State. But it was the largest cat to have ever lived. It had the largest brain size of any cat. But it was supposed to have gone extinct about 10,000 years ago. But I think one of the most unusual things about this creature, so we've got, like I said, about 50 or 60 reports. Half of them say that it's 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder. and a handful of them say that it has a face that looks like a monkey. And that's where things get pretty strange. Obviously, no creature like that recognized by science. A couple of the reports, people have said that their compasses have gone haywire when they're near them. We had another report of someone who said that the battery in their headlamp and their cell phone died simultaneously when they tried to film it. And so there's a constellation of clues that suggest that this may be some type of paranormal creature.
It is really strange because I have never heard anything that looked like that, what you described. Again, you're talking about, a black cat with the face of a monkey?
Yeah. It was this was a guy who came in late at night. I shouldn't say late. It was probably like 7 o'clock, just before the store closed. And he was up by Buck Creek, which is maybe 3 miles from the store. It took him 45 minutes to work up the courage to tell me his story. And his family had been friends with my mother-in-law, who had helped him out with some medical issues. She was a registered pharmacist. And so he was kind of a friend of the family, very earnest about his tale. Took him a while to work up the courage to talk about it. He described it, and I was just fascinated by this creature. And he was adamant. He said that he spent maybe 5 minutes looking at the creature. And so he got a good look at it. It wasn't scared of him, which is something which is also uncharacteristic of cougars. Cougars flee from the sound of a human voice. And this one had, he said, intelligent ape-like eyes, this sort of flattened face that looked like a monkey, and other primate features. He said that it had fur that was 4 to 5 inches long. And so, I got as much information from him as I could. And the next morning, I was talking to my employees. I was really excited about it. And I told a gal, Missy. Now, Missy is as honest as the day is long. She's the kind of person that doesn't even like to play practical jokes on her coworkers because that's kind of like lying and not cool for her. Well, I described this creature, and she started shaking. And she said, James, I've seen that creature myself. I was driving down Klickitat Canyon. So just so you get a picture, so our store is right along the Columbia River, and we're about, I'd say 60 miles east of Portland, Oregon. And we're flanked by 2 stratovolcanoes. So there's Mount Adams on the Washington side and Mount Hood on the Oregon side. And so Mount Adams is about 35 miles north of us. Mount Hood is 35 miles south of us.
Well, James, I wanted to jump in here too. Mount Adams have had a lot of reports of UFOs coming out of it.
It does, and I've got tales to tell you about that too. But there's 2 rivers. So we've got the Klickitat River, which flows off of Mount Adams, and the White Salmon River. Well, she lives up Klickitat Canyon, and Klickitat Canyon is sort of a deserty-looking canyon. And it was early morning, right around dawn, and she saw this enormous black cat walking near the road. She said it was huge, and she even stopped her car to watch it. She said it entered a small patch of tall grass, and she waited for 5 minutes, and it never emerged out of the grass. She got out of her car and thought maybe she should warn the houses nearby that there was an enormous predator around, and she just found no trace of the cat. Very strange. When she described it to her family, and this gives you a sense of how big it is, they told her that she'd probably seen a cow. Now, I mean, like,
have you ever seen a cow with fur like that?
I know. Well, it's like if you had seen a Ferrari and you described it to your friends and they said, well, Ferraris are pretty rare. You probably saw a minivan. It's like, you would know, like, this is a grown woman. She knows the difference between a cow and a cat. And so once I had these 2 people, which to me were believable, and whether anyone else believes them is not important to me, but my employee who I trust, who I've known for quite some time, and this friend of the family who was earnestly reporting a very strange experience. And so, of course, with the stores, we have, radio advertising budget. So we put out ads asking if anyone had seen it. And I posted up flyers at all the trailheads nearby, and reports started flooding in. And some of these reports go back 30 or 40 years. We've even had senior law enforcement officials tell us that they've seen it in the hills right above my store. We've had stories of hunters who've seen it in their scopes but decided not to shoot because they thought it was maybe an endangered creature. We had another gentleman who told me he saw it in his driveway with a kitten, so a small baby cat, a big black cat with a small baby cat. And we've had reports that people have seen it leaping across the road at night, and when its body is stretched out, it is as long as 2 lanes of a road. So like, as wide as a road is 2 lanes. So just an enormous creature. And like I said, 50 or 60 reports actually. And so it's sort of been a quest of mine now to figure this thing out. This is a really mysterious thing. So of course, the county where I'm located is Klickitat County, which is where the creature gets its name, the Clickitat Ape Cat. And we have been long inhabited by indigenous Americans. And there are places where there are petroglyphs. And some of these petroglyphs look like cats. What's interesting is that in the Great Lakes region, there are legends of supernatural panther protector creatures, a whole race of these things. They're called Mishepashu. And they, when Native Americans, I understand, are talking about creatures that are underwater or from the sky realm or from within the earth, they're talking about creatures or beings that have 1 foot in the spirit realm and 1 foot in the physical realm. So this race of underwater panthers is reported to look like a body of a panther with the face of a man. And when I look at the petroglyphs here, that seems to be reflected in some of the indigenous artwork in the area. Now, that's not confirmed, but it's an interesting connection and one that, we're looking into more deeply.
Wow. Again, too, how many actual reports did you get on this cat? Oh, and how since you've been at that store, how many?
So we've had 50 to 60 reports, and we give people the option. They can come in and verbally file a report. We have some report forms that they can fill out if they want to do that. And just recently, we added it to our website, so margiesoutdoorstore.com, and there is a paranormal reporting form there. And so a lot of times folks will come in, and people now stop me on the street. I'm kind of well known in the community now, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I've seen that creature too." And so it seems like we probably get at least 1 report a week, if not 2, even now. And you had mentioned that the UFO activity is really elevated around Mount Adams.
Oh yeah.
Well, there is a place just a little bit south of Mount Adams, about 20 minutes from the store, called ESETI Ranch. And ESETI stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And so Jim has been up there for a couple of decades now, I think. And people come from all over the world, and they can camp at his ranch, and they watch UFOs fly around Mount Adams all night long. People come skeptics, and they leave believers.
I can say it's true because I've been there a couple years back. And
really?
I was there with my wife, and we were camping there. And around 1 o'clock in the morning, we, with a whole bunch of other people, we've seen it coming out of Mount Adams.
It's remarkable. We have had folks report that they've seen a physical hangar door open on one of the sub-summits of Mount Adams. And there are photographs of it. And people say that they've seen things flying in and out of that, physical objects.
Oh, yeah.
And what's fascinating is that one day an older gentleman came into the store, and he said, "Well, I got to tell you about this portal I saw near Mount Adams." And I kind of jumped again, and I said, "Oh, you mean the hangar door?" He said, No, this was something different. I saw an opening in the sky next to the summit. So he didn't see something on the mountain. He said it looked like there was a hole in the sky, and the sky behind the hole was different from the sky around the hole. He thought there might have been something wrong with his eyes. So he rubbed them, and he actually got in his car and traveled quite a distance and tracked this strange anomaly in the sky next to Mount Adams. And we have had dozens and dozens of UFO reports in the area. We've had stories. So they really kind of fall into 3 categories when you talk about UFOs. We get things that sound like UFOs. So in February, someone sent in a picture that was like a classic Tic Tac shape. They took this picture over Underwood Mountain, which is about 3 miles from the store. And the picture is taken from 11 miles away, but it's a classic tic-tac shape. What's astonishing is, like, when I walk out this front door of my store, I can see this mountain right there. It is remarkably close. This object, if the scale in the picture is accurate, was enormous. So we get those kind of classic UFO stories. We've heard also of triangular shaped lights in the sky. And also we've had reports of craft that are flying through the air and they dive into the water of the Columbia River. So they're, what do they call it, transmedium. So again, these are reports that people come and file at the store. What's interesting is, if we get a good report, we'll post it on our social media pages. And oftentimes, people will just tag a friend and say, "See, I told you so." And so there's a huge amount of, so what I would call classic UFOs, we now call them UAPs. Then we have a number of stories of floating glowing orbs. And my wife and I have seen these ourselves driving on Highway 14.
Okay, James, so we have to take a break for the radio stations here. We'll be back in about 90 seconds, and we'll find out about that orbs. And also, by the way, at that ranch you talked about, it's also been a lot of, sightings and sounds of Bigfoot also. So we'll be back with James, so stay tuned. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the strange news. Real life Groundhog Day. Rare condition causes man to live the same day on repeat. I'm Guy Ticker. The strange news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. Deep in the Amazon jungle, one man.
Hi, I'm Stan Gordon. Check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary the Big Guy.
Yeah, let me finish. One man.
Hi, I'm Mark Muncy. Check out Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary the Big Guy.
Yeah, do you mind? One man, naked and afraid. You and me both, sister. One man, Gary the Big Guy. No boats, no lights, no motor cars, not a single luxury.
Hey, any more and you'll have to pay a royalty.
Okay, that's it. Hit it! From the summer vacation studios deep in the Amazon jungle, from that tree right there. See at the top, he's swinging.
I'm losing my mind.
Twice? All right. Coming to you live, for now, on Night Dreams Talk Radio, naked and afraid, Gary the Big Guy Anderson.
And it's chilly in here, too, being naked. I'll tell you that much. I can say that. James, again, orbs and stuff. Whereabouts were the orbs located at?
Well, Gary, there's a really interesting formation here in the gorge called Beacon Rock. Beacon Rock is sort of the cold core of an ancient volcano that was active 57,000 years ago. And it's 850 feet tall, and it's the second largest monolith in the northern hemisphere. Its sides were stripped clean during these biblical floods that happened here 15,000 years ago. And so this is this great, huge rock. There's actually a trail that leads up that's pinned to the side of this thing. It's a sheer, cliff face. Anyway, it's around here that we've had reports of glowing orbs, and all along Highway 14, which is the road that's right parallel to it. And so the glowing orbs are an interesting phenomenon. We hear about those on the ground and sort of in the sky as well. And then what I wanted to say, I forgot to mention that the ECETI Ranch, one of the races of extraterrestrial intelligence that they claim to be in contact with, is a race of feline humanoids. And if you go to their website, eceti.org, you'll see right there in the logo, there's a big lion. And so there may be some connection with these ape cats and what's going on at ECETI Ranch and the types of entities that they're encountering there. Again, that's something that I haven't had a chance to confirm yet. But we were talking about UFOs, and so we have the classic UFOs, we've got these glowing orbs, and then we also have what appear to be advanced military aircraft. So these are things like black choppers flying through the canyons that make no noise. And this area has been, for a very long time, of great military interest. So the Columbia River has got 14 dams on it, and it accounts for 44% of the United States hydroelectric power. So it is of critical tactical importance, just from an infrastructure standpoint. But the very first use of that really was during World War II. And about 100 miles upstream, you may have heard of the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. Now, there's a really interesting theory that the Klickitat Ape Cat may have escaped from the animal testing labs out there at Hanford. So during World War II, the Allies were incredibly concerned that the Nazis were going to unlock the secrets of the atom before the Allies did. Everybody knows that they're worried about them creating a bomb. But the Nazis were also intimately involved with genetic manipulation.
Oh, yeah.
And they were really, they had actually, there are reports that they had brought back an Ice Age creature called the Aurochs, which is a giant hyper-aggressive bull, through retrobreeding and all these other strange Nazi techniques. And that's a verified historical fact. And so back in the 40s, we didn't know a lot about radiation, but we did know that it induced mutations. And so when our military set up the Manhattan Project, they designated Los Alamos as the place where the engineers would design the bomb. But Hanford was the site where they were going to actually create the plutonium. And not to put too fine a point on it, but plutonium is an element that doesn't naturally exist. And at Hanford, they were creating it on an industrial scale. And so this was what became eventually the Department of Energy. It was their first, most top secret site. Eventually, they would have 9 nuclear reactors going there. Hanford created the plutonium for the very first nuclear explosion, and then the material that went into the bomb that was dropped in Nagasaki. And through the Cold War, they created enough plutonium there to fuel 60,000 nuclear weapons. So this is a site that back in the 40s, they basically made everyone move out. It was a sacred Indian site. They removed the Indians from the location. And they took over a landmass half the size of Rhode Island, and it's bordered by the Columbia River. And they were using the energy from one of the dams to literally toy with the fabric of reality and create plutonium there. And then they used the river water to cool it. Well, from day one, they had an animal testing program there. And the guy that they chose to lead that program was a guy named Dr. Lauren Donaldson. And he was from the University of Washington, and his only academic achievement before this posting was he had created a super animal. It's called the Donaldson super trout. And this is a fish that is 8 times larger and stronger than normal trout. They can swim in fresh water and salt water. It's reaches reproductive maturity in half the time. And it's this incredible creature. It's still alive today. But that's the guy that they chose to run the animal testing program at Hanford. Well, fast forward, he eventually winds up leaving Hanford, but he left a great legacy there. He goes on to like Bikini Atoll and Castle Bravo tests and all that kind of stuff in the South Pacific. A new guy comes in named Bill Baer, and Bill Baer is in charge of the animal testing laboratory basically during the Cold War. And there are newspaper reports, and I've seen oral histories. Bill has since died, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And I've listened to 3 oral histories that he's given. And each one of them, he talks about how they were irradiating apex predators at Hanford and running really bizarre tests on them. And in one story, they apparently had between 20 to 50 alligators there. And
Oh, wow.
he even holds up a picture of the devices they were using to irradiate these apex predators with. Well, one night, 6 of these experimental irradiated alligators outsmarted the scientists and escaped into the Columbia River. And so there's a newspaper article. This is 100% verified, historically accurate piece of information. And they sent out these covert Army hunting teams, and for 6 months they hunted down these alligators in the river, and they only ever caught 4 of them. And so there are these 2 irradiated experimental apex predators still swimming around in the Columbia River. And even Bill Bear in these interviews talks about even in the 80s he was getting calls about alligators in the Columbia. We've had reports in our store of people saying that they were kayaking far upstream, closer to the Hanford site, and something grabbed the bottom of their kayak and started tugging it under. And eventually they escaped and got to shore, and they never did see what had grabbed their boat. So we know for sure that at Hanford they were doing really bizarre experiments on apex predators. And we also know that they couldn't contain them. Well, what does that have to do with cats? Well, today, a quarter of the U.S. nuclear stockpile is guarded by dolphins. And the reason is that it is really hard for sonar to tell the difference between, like a tuna or a sea lion and a Soviet scuba diver who's coming in to, surveil or sabotage your nuclear site. And so they've trained the dolphins to go after divers. Apparently, they've got some type of device. It's sort of like a harpoon that they put on their nose, and that dolphin will tag that diver, and a balloon inflates and brings that diver to the surface, and then the Navy comes and scoops them up and interrogates them. So Hanford is clearly one of our most important nuclear sites, but you can't bring dolphins into the Columbia River because the Columbia River is freshwater and dolphins only operate in saltwater. And so if you're a zealous cold warrior, you're going to ask yourself one simple question. What is the world's most effective riverine predator? And the answer is the jaguar. Jaguars can hold their breath for 15 minutes. They can eat underwater. They can kill Cayman alligators with a single bite to the back of the head. Pound for pound, they're the strongest of the big cats. They have night vision that's 6 times better than a human. And interestingly, they always, always, always drag their prey to shore. So this is a combination of traits that is exactly what you would want if you're looking for a sentinel creature to guard your coastline. Now, I want to be clear about the scope of the problem they're facing. The Hanford nuclear site has 90 miles of river coastline. And as a former soldier, I can tell you that is an extremely difficult task to try to guard, especially if you're talking about scuba divers infiltrating at night. And especially if you're talking about like 1950s technology when night vision wasn't as strong and we didn't have all the technological advantages we have today. And so the idea that we think what might have happened was there was a Cold War program to train jaguars. They were probably doing some genetic manipulation on them. Those jaguars, just like the alligators, outsmarted the scientists and escaped. And just like the alligators, their attempts to recapture them were ineffective. And so these creatures are now out in the wild. If they're anything like Donaldson's super trout, they achieved sexual maturity in half the time as a normal cat. And so if you understand our geography a little bit, north, east, and south of the Hanford site is all desert. But the Cascade Mountains form a rain shadow. And so Klickitat County is west of that, and there's tons of available prey and habitat and places for a big cat to make a real living. And so what we think happened was they had some version of that alligator program, but with big jaguars. They escaped, and they eventually migrated into Klickitat County from the nuclear site.
Very interesting. And also, how about the reports of Bigfoot around there too? I mean, again, you go back to City Ranch, okay, that is a hot spot for Bigfoot. Both physically, people seeing them, and the tree knocks and the sounds of, something yelling.
Well, interesting you bring that up. So we've had tons of reports of Sasquatch at the store. We've had folks bring in hair samples. We've had folks say that they've seen young ones with adults. They've seen pregnant Sasquatch. They've seen Sasquatch 13 feet tall standing in berry fields. We've had reports that the Bigfoot here seem to be able to teleport short distances. So they might be walking away, and then they seem to do a teleportation leap of 50 yards at a time. And there's a place not far from the store, maybe 15 minutes away. Its official name is the Monte Cristo Natural Preserve, but the locals call it Monster Mountain because there have been so many Sasquatch sightings there. And of course, we're talking about, actual sightings. I saw a big humanoid or bipedal creature. We've had stories where people say that they believe that they were surrounded by 4 different individuals, each with a different voice, and they're communicating around them. And so in this particular story, they said it sounded like there was an older one who was more cranky than the other ones, and then 4 others that had sort of triangulated around the party, hooting and hollering and communicating with each other, knocking sticks, like you've said. We've had stories of people having stones thrown near them. And again, obviously no creatures without hands can throw stones. And interestingly, my 9-year-old daughter is my co-investigator. And the other night I was out in the garage working on my car. I live in Stevenson. So just to give people a sense, the Cascade Mountains are a huge mountain range here in Washington that starts in British Columbia, goes through Washington State, through Oregon, and then terminates in Northern California. Columbia River Gorge is the only sea level passage to those mountains. Some of these mountains are 14,000 feet tall, like Mount Rainier, or 11,000 feet tall, like Mount Adams. And so we live, and then those mountains form a rain shadow. So the west side of the mountains is a rainforest, sees 100 inches of rain a year. The east side of the mountains is a desert, sees less than 10 inches of rain a year. So my stores are sort of on the east side, right at the border of the desert. And my home is in Stevenson, which is in the rainforest area. And so I was out working on I've got a 4x4 that will be used to follow up on some of these reports. And I heard strange, large animal vocalizations in the, maybe a couple hundred yards from the house. We're about a mile north of the river and about 800 feet elevation. And I called my co-investigator, my 9-year-old daughter, out, and she listened for a while. She said, "Dad, I think that might be a Sasquatch calling." So we called my wife out, and we're all standing in the garage listening to these big animal noises. And then we'd hear the animal noises, and then we'd hear 3 knocks, 3 wood on wood knocks, the animal noise. And this happened 4 or 5 times. And that's, right outside our front door. And so we didn't have to leave our house to have some type of Sasquatch encounter. But to answer your question, yeah, Bigfoot is an ever-present force here. In fact, Skamania County, which is the county that I live in, was the first county in the United States to make it illegal to hunt Bigfoot. If you kill a Bigfoot here, you will go to jail and pay thousands of dollars in fines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is, again, too. Now, has anybody brought in like casting of footprints of Bigfoot or reportedly Bigfoot?
We haven't had folks bring those into the store. And, one of the reasons why I am doing interviews like this is that I'm an old adventurer. I run a store. I am not a paranormal investigator. And so I am putting this information out there. There is so much going on out here that, if people are more scientifically minded, are better researchers than I am, or people are more intuitive and they're able to sense things maybe better than I am, I encourage them to come down to the gorge and check it out for themselves. There are things like the sheer volume of reports that we have is really extraordinary. It's kind of unlike any place else on Earth. I'd sort of alluded to this at the beginning of our interview, but we have had multiple biblical scale cataclysms happen here. I talked about the river being 20 million years old, and 15 million years ago we had this enormous eruption where lava flowed out, and it flowed out in basically 300 different eruptive events. And so we've got this layer cake of this basalt rock, and each of those layers, the magnetic grains in the rock are oriented differently because those flows happened over millions of years. And each time that rock cooled, the lava cooled, it oriented the magnetic grains in that rock to the Earth's magnetic field at that time, which of course has been shifting and changing all throughout history, right? And sometimes it's even reversed entirely. And then 15,000 years ago, we had these biblical floods. And just to give you a sense of the scope and scale, they're called the Missoula floods. Again, scientifically verified. I think like Graham Hancock talks about it. Randall Carlson talks about these floods. And so there was an enormous lake that had the capacity of all the Great Lakes combined in Missoula, Montana. An ice dam broke, and within a week, it all drained across eastern Washington, created what they call the channeled scablands, and got held up at a place called Waluva Gap, which is the beginning of the gorge, and then it rocketed through the gorge. And these floods were over 1,000 feet deep, and at places it was going 60 to 70 miles an hour, carrying giant boulders and icebergs, and it stripped the rock clean. And so we have all of these, so these different layers with all these different magnetic orientations, and then it's all been stripped raw. And so you've got these stunningly beautiful cliffs. You know, like the Columbia River Gorge in the 1980s was designated as the nation's first national scenic area. It was recognized that it was so beautiful and so unique that they protected it by law so that it wouldn't be overdeveloped and the scenic vistas would be preserved. There are over 90 waterfalls here. Some of them are 600 feet tall. And so this is like a truly like prehistoric magical place. And, you know, I have been trying to come up with theories about why we have such a hotspot, why we have so many paranormal reports and why they're so varied. And there is a guy, Dr. Michael Persinger, and he has done studies on how very small electromagnetic influences on the brain can create very unusual experiences. And it seems like with all of the strange energetic eddies that we have here and these magnetic orientations, that there may be some impact on our physical brains, and it shifts our ability to perceive things. And so I think when people are here, they, all of these strange energetic and magnetic forces that are a part of our geology are impacting people's perceptive abilities, and they're able to see things that you don't normally see.
Very interesting. Hey, James, our time is virtually up. How can they find your store if they're in Washington, Oregon and want to check you out? And do you have a website for your store?
Yeah, so the website is margiesoutdoorstore.com. That's margiesoutdoorstore.com. And we are located in Bingen, Washington. The biggest town near us is Hood River, Oregon. And so we're right across the bridge from Hood River, Oregon, about 60 minutes east of Portland.
Interesting. Now, what type of stuff do you carry in your store?
So we're a full-fledged outdoor outfitter. And with all my experience, we have some of the best gear. We were voted the best outdoor outfitter in the gorge. We also have a bunch of paranormal material. So you can buy EMF readers and dowsing rods and things like that in the store. For me, the outdoors is a magical place, and so we sort of embrace that. So we were also voted the best gift store in the gorge, and we're also voted the best attraction in the gorge because of our focus on the paranormal. If you go to our website and you click on the paranormal tab, you'll see a gallery, many images of some of the things that people have seen. We've had some artist interpretation of those things created. I've also created a map, which you can find on our website in our store, that shows where many of the paranormal sightings have occurred. And just recently, I've started producing things that I call arcane adventure maps, and they focus on different paranormal hotspots in the gorge. And you can come into the store, pick one up, and have a weekend adventure, and get some detailed maps on where to find stuff, and some of the history and stories and local lore and legends about all the stuff that's going on out here.
How about camping and RV parks? Anything like that in the area for the people?
Oh, there are numerous, too many to mention. And we've got, of course, 4-star resorts out here, like Skamania Lodge, excuse me. And there's even the Columbia Gorge Hotel, which is considered one of the 10 most haunted places in Oregon with 4 resident ghosts.
Interesting. Well, hey, James, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Gary, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, you take care, my friend.
You too.
Well, JC, who do we have on tomorrow? What are we going to be talking about tomorrow?
Oh, Gary, we have Daniel Herrera on. Now, he has been a publicist to the stars, so to speak, in Hollywood for 40 plus years. But in 1970, as a young teenager, he had experience with his father with UFOs and a few other experiences throughout the years, which inspired him to write a book about UFOs and some experiences. So that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow.
And how about Friday? Who do we have?
Friday we have Rich Hoffman coming back on. Now, Rich Hoffman is very well known in the UFO field from, you name it, from investigating, researching many different UFO occurrences.
And so we should have 2 great shows before the weekend. So everybody, check out our website. It's been updated at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And also Dr. Chance is going to be coming back on. He was our guest last week, and he's going to be coming on when again? Do you have any memory when?
Yeah, well, it's going to be September. It's either going to be a Wednesday or Thursday in mid-September. It'll be one of those. We'll know it's mid-September, though.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about UFOs and, and that with him. So it's going to be a great show. Well, till tomorrow, everybody have a good one. We will catch you on the other side. Everybody have a good night.
I've been contemplating